So the problem with a lot of panels that I've been on and a lot of videos that are like this about making a thing is that it sometimes makes things seem like it's a one-size-fits-all when typically these videos or these panels are talking about a blockbuster tabletop RPG or like a blockbuster board game or, whatever that's going to make tons and tons of money. But not every game is going to be a blockbuster TTRPG or it's going to make, millions of dollars or what have you. I mean, obviously the goal is always to make $1 million, right? But all joking aside, not every game is going to end up being a multi-million-dollar game. Sometimes you just want to make a small game for itch or something that's really personal that you just want to share with the world that's going to be a digital product and it's not going to be a physical thing. And that's okay. So today we're going to be focusing on the goal of the game and trying to figure out what you want this product to look like in the very end. So with the quick caveat that what you want might change for this game because we as humans are not static. Your mind might change about what this end product is going to look like, what this goal of the game is going to be. And over time, maybe you're going to be learning more about yourself. Maybe you're going to be learning more about the creative process, and it might alter the way that you want this game to look. So just keep that in mind. So let's get started. So there are 3 questions that I want you to answer about your project as you're going through this thing. So the first question is, have I seen other things out there that look like the thing I want to make? The second question is, what are the components of this thing and will a publisher take it? The third is there a specific way that I'd like to publish this thing? And then finally at the end, I'll just go through some options for publishing so that way you get an idea of what are the options in general. So the first question is, have I seen other things that are out there that look like the thing I want to make? And I know a lot of people are always just like, I want this to be unique and original and whatever. And that's totally fine. You can totally make an original product by looking at other people and what they have done in the past and making it your own, right? So if you see a cool thing out there that has a system that's really exciting and interesting to you, it's okay to be like, hey, I'm going to use this as a base for what I'm going to create. And then from there, I'm going to alter it. I'm going to change it around. I'm going to, mess with it. And then eventually it's going to turn into my own thing. So definitely check out what other people are doing because you might find something that really resonates with you. Maybe that's a system, maybe that's a theme, and definitely try to mess around with it so that way it feels more personal to you. Obviously, don't plagiarize anyone or, steal someone else's work. But if you see something for example, something is powered by the apocalypse and it's, really fitting for a specific theme, maybe it'll fit with your theme. So maybe, your game could be a powered by the apocalypse system, or maybe it's a D20 system. Just think about the stuff that you want to make and think about what would go well with what I already have. Usually when you have a frame of reference, you see something that's out there that's really cool and you're really excited for it, at least you have something that you can hook on. And using that hook, you can definitely tell other players when they're playtesting your game or if they're playing your game, telling them, hey, my game is sort of like this other game out there, but it uses a different theme. Or maybe the theme or the tone is similar, but it's got this other exciting thing that I'm adding to the table, pun intended. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the components of the thing that you're making. So I'm just going to say thing because TTRPG or not, it could be a TTRPG, it could be a board game. What if it's a hybrid? What if it's a LARP? It could be anything that you're making, right? So I'm just gonna say the word thing that you're making, and it could be an experimental immersive theater piece. I don't know, whatever you're making, just think about what is it going to look like at the very end? What are the things that are required to make this other thing? So does it have a board? Does it have dice? Does it have chits? Does it have coloring pencils? And the reason why I'm talking about this is because not all publishers are going to go all in with something that's got a billion components to it, right? So some TTRPG publishers, they're more likely to take something that's just like a book. They're going to take a look at it and they're going to let you know their feedback. But if it's something that's got, meeples and it comes with dice and it's in a box set and it's got like puzzle pieces and you have to do all these other things. You know, maybe you're making a board game and you want to ask a board game publisher if they want to take a look at it. But at the same time, there are some publishers out there that are really excited for more experimental games that are a hybrid of board game and TTRPG. And if you're just going to make a book and you're going to list off all the components that hopefully your players will have access to, then I mean, that's one thing we should talk about, which is accessibility, but that's another video. For this right now, if you're gonna have just a book and you're gonna ask your players to find the pieces or find all the components to it, that's totally fine too. Maybe you're just publishing a zine without any components, or maybe you are adding components to the zine. Maybe it's like a little Ziploc bag with like, you know, all the components. Maybe it's got like little dice to it or little pencils like from IKEA. Maybe it's got like, you know, a little booklet with all the things that you need to play this game. Maybe it's even got cards, I don't know. So thinking about the components and what are the restrictions for going into publishing with like a larger publisher, if you're going to sell it off, if you're going to license it off to someone else. And if you're self-publishing, recognizing how many components this is going to need, you know, how much money am I going to need for this thing? That's always the big scary question. And also just like making sure that it's accessible for your players, you know, trying to make sure that they have access to all the components that you're telling them that they need to get. So the third question sort of piggybacks off of the second question, which is there a specific way that I want to publish this thing? Is there a specific way that I want to release this game out into the wild? So earlier I mentioned that there are a variety of ways that you can do this, and one of the ways is, you know, going to a copy shop and printing off your book and putting it in a little Ziploc bag and, you know, selling it at a convention or selling it online or something like that. So that's a self-publishing route. Obviously not every self-publishing route is going to look like this, but that's like one of my favorites. I love seeing zines, just, you know, at a convention where I can pick it up and be like, oh, this is so cool. Like, this is definitely handmade. This is definitely, you know, stapled together by the creator probably, or their friends. But also it doesn't have to be a physical format. It could be a digital product that you're selling on your itch or your website, or even just like, you know, putting it up onto DriveThruRPG. And what it might look like could vary. It could be something as short as like a 2-page RPG or a 1-pager RPG, or it could be something as long as 120 pages. It could be, you know, super long. It could have like a lot of art, or maybe it has minimal art. It depends on what you want to make at the very end. And also, do you want to crowdsource this? Do you want to go onto a platform like GameFound? Or maybe you have an angel investor who would love to give you some money to make this thing. Keeping in mind there, if you are going onto a crowdsourcing platform, that's just like a whole lot of marketing and a whole lot of work for this other thing. So it's like a whole campaign that you're working around. You also want to think about your goal there, right? So how much is the goal going to be? If it's like $1,000, am I thinking it's going to be a digital product only? Am I thinking that it's going to be a zine that's going to be small and it's going to get sent out to all my backers? Or am I thinking it's going to be like $20,000? And if it's like $20,000, then it's probably going to be like a full-size book. It's like, you know, 150 pages. It's going to be, you know, something that's going to be a hardback thing. Maybe it's got a box. I don't know. Maybe this is going to be like a major project for you that's going to take like a team of people to work with. It doesn't necessarily have to be one or the other. It could be something in between. So take some time to think about the 3 questions and look at your own project and see if there is stuff that's left unanswered, stuff that you're still unclear about. And again, it's totally fine to change your goal. It's totally fine to change, you know, the stuff that you want for your game and be malleable with it. I always think that the best time to make something is when you're excited for the thing. Otherwise, you're just gonna be miserable making the thing and you're not excited for it. So it's just like sitting there and you're miserable and you're typing away and it's not fun. And finally, before I leave you, I'm going to talk a little bit about the 3 options that I found for publishing that might be helpful for you. So this kind of stuff excludes like going onto Amazon or sending your book to Random House or a large publisher like that. These are just the 3 outlets that I've come across when it comes to publishing in the TTRPG space. So the first one, which is something that I've already talked about, which is self-publishing. You can, you know, make a zine, you can, you know, go big and make a whole box set. It could be anything. It depends on your time, your resources, and what you want for this game. The second option is co-publishing. So maybe you want to go to another publisher and be like, hey, let's split up the work. Let's do it 50-50. So I'm going to be working on the project management. I'm going to be doing all the marketing. I'm going to do all this stuff. And then you're going to take on the manufacturing, the fulfillment, all that other stuff. So maybe it's like an agreement like that where it's 50-50 and you're both getting 50% of the profits. And the last option is selling it to a publisher or licensing it out to a publisher. And usually for the percentages for that, it's lower because they're doing the majority of the work. They're doing the marketing, the promotion. Sometimes they're doing the project management when it comes to dealing with your side of things. Actually, usually they're doing the project management when it comes to dealing with your side of the stuff. All you're doing basically in this category is you're just making the thing and letting it loose into their hands. In terms of percentages, it can really vary because in board games, I've seen that you can have a smaller percentage, mostly because you're dealing with larger units. If it's an indie company, you might be working with like smaller units, and in that case, the percentages might be higher. But in terms of TTRPGs, I've seen that publishers are willing to give a higher percentage, and that's because you're doing most of the heavy lifting. You're doing a majority of the writing, you're doing a majority of the development, design, all of that, unless they want to do everything in-house. In that case, then it might look a little different. But in terms of the actual work, the actual upfront work that you're putting in, they're going to be willing to give a higher percentage because you're doing so much. So I hope that all of this background information and all these questions are helpful for you when you're thinking about what you want to make and how you want to make it. And I think that having a goal for the project is always nice, but of course, this goal is moving, right? So you might change your mind in terms of what is it going to look like in the middle of the project, and that's totally fine. So since we're already on the topic of publishing, I might just continue with this topic in my next video and do a deep dive into each of the various different ways of publishing, so that way you get a chance to understand, how much work is this going to take for me to make this thing. I think that setting expectations is very important, so that way everyone knows what they're getting themselves into. If you liked this video and you thought it was helpful, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're looking forward to seeing more videos on TTRPGs, how to make them, then subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. That's all for today, and thanks for watching. Bye.